Hey everybody, I hope everybody is not only surviving during this pandemic, but on some level thriving, if not in every dimension of life, at least that you are thriving spiritually, knowing the Lord's presence with you, and yeah, just staying encouraged in Him. I know that it's a lot, and there's a lot to process right now. And so I wanted to have this call because we need wisdom for these times, right? And many of you guys know that we're going to be getting this stimulus, right? Or this check, legendary check. Hopefully it actually comes, right? $1,200 coming in various routes as a relief for these times. And I thought about that it'd be good to go to our friend Natalie, who works in the financial world locally in our neighborhood with the credit union, Everence, and she's invested in our community, and just seeing people thrive economically, right? Especially young people. And so I thought that we could go to Natalie and kind of see if you have any advice for us as we're really trying to think about this time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Natalie Martinez, and this is kind of neat to be able to come to you guys this way. We all live on Zoom these days, and thank God that we're able to still communicate and virtually see each other. So as Jeremy stated, yeah, we're supposed to be getting this stimulus check from the law that was passed, the act. It's called the CARES Act. I'm going to share my screen with you guys and show you some things, and then just kind of, talk about some tips, some recommendations. I'm not a financial advisor per se, but I definitely work for Everence Financial, which is a full services financial services organization. Is that redundant? Yes. And Federal Credit Union. So if you don't know all the details about, the first thing I would say, it's important that we get educated about what this act is. It's called the CARES Act, which stands for the Corona Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or CARES Act for short. It's important to know what it covers, what it entails, what it means for you individually. You might be interested to find out what it means for your church or your nonprofit that you work for, or just so that you have information that you can share with others, because everybody's wondering, okay, what are the details of this and what does it mean for me and those around me? And so we're going to go over a couple of links here. And then I want to talk about, the options of what you can do with that money, right? So the CARES Act has a bunch of provisions, and you can get associated with that, better associated with this link. I think, Jeremy, you're going to add links to this later.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But this is like a breakdown, right? So it talks about the stimulus to individuals, businesses, hospitals, etc. And here's where it talks about the amount, the $1,200. So if you are within this income guideline, if you file individually and you're making less than $75,000, you're going to get $1,200. And if you have children, you're supposed to get $500 for each additional child. And then if you filed your taxes jointly, you make less than $150,000 together, you're supposed to then basically get $2,400 plus $500 for each child. So, and then, there's some people are really upset about this stimulus because the poor are going to get less, right? So there's a lot of justice issues around this whole thing. But we're in a unique place where, we should be thinking about, okay, if we do get this money, what can I do with it, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's for yourself or if you're in a place where you don't necessarily need it for yourself, we are definitely recommending that you pray about how you might be able to use it to help someone else, right? If you're in a place where you can part with this money. If you're not struggling because you're still able to work, you're getting your paycheck because you're working from home, etc. So there are, you can be creative with it. All right. But if you don't have, for example, an emergency savings, I would say this is a perfect opportunity to consider setting one up and being prepared for situations like what we're in today.
Can you explain to me what that means to you? Because I mean, I can imagine some of us like, what is emergency savings? What does that mean? Is it like a piggy bank where I put cash into?
Yeah. So I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna share some PowerPoint slides with you. I just want to, before I do that, let me just go over here and show you this other article. There's an article in Christianity Today about the CARES Act, right, and how it affects your church. So I would recommend that you read this article. And there's also this website, the Council of Nonprofits, then that further describes, and there's a really neat, can you still see this?
Yeah. Okay.
There's a neat chart here that you can download about how this impacts nonprofits, which really, it's a clean, easy way to understand, the impacts of this CARES Act on the nonprofits. So if this is the sphere that you live in, I would recommend that you go to this site. Okay. So it's the National Council of Nonprofits. Gotcha. So I'm going to share now my PowerPoint slides that I wanted to get into with you guys about having an emergency savings. Nice. You don't yet have one. So right now, people we kind of got blindsided by this thing, and a lot of times we maybe in the back of our minds we say, I'm gonna work on my emergency savings one of these days, but we never get around to it. So we really need to prepare for these things. And so I thought this was really interesting that as little as $250 can protect families from missing a payment, being evicted or whatever. You might think $250 is not a lot of money. It's not. But if you don't have access to any amount of cash when there's an emergency, you can start to spiral down to a really difficult time. So
1,200 would be like 5 of those 250s, right?
Right. So yeah. So 1,200 is actually kind of a nice amount for an emergency savings. So here is I don't know if this is very clear, but I will also send you a PDF of this where it's a little bit better to read. But basically, it's a short-term savings amount, right? So you want, like, you can people start with $1,000 as a sort of a basic amount. But what might be more practical is to look at, for example, how much if you have a mortgage or you rent, right? How much money would you need for your living situation in a month, right? Right. You have a deductible for your car. If you have a car and you need, God forbid you have an accident, right? Right. People with pets, those are usually not, most people don't have insurance for their pets, and they can be so much more expensive than when human beings go to the hospital, right? Right. I had my dog, like I had to take her she would run out all the time. And a couple of times I had to take her to the emergency vet hospital is so expensive. So you really need to have those things planned out. And then as well as, for example, car repair or et cetera, the things that are absolutely essential for you to survive off for a month. And so here, this is a kind of a big emergency fund, $3,250 when you add up these examples, but some of these things may not apply to you. So you put in there definitely your rent, definitely your transportation, because you need to get to and from work. And
bill, right? A lot of people, I see a lot of people, the next one is like the phone bill.
Right. Your phone, exactly. Your phone, because most people, do their work through their phone. And also, it's very essential nowadays, cell phones. So having enough money in there to pay for your phone bill, and food, right? You want to make sure you have enough money to buy some groceries and stock up for a week or two or whatever. it is until you're able to get your next check, or whether it's benefits that you might have to apply for. But these are some of the examples. So I think 1,200, if you don't have any money aside at all, $1,200 would be great to then put aside for your emergency savings. But you definitely want to name what you're going to do with it. Otherwise, you throw it in, you leave it in your checking, you're going to just spend it. So you want to set it. I would recommend that it would actually be, any bank that you currently use allows you to open up multiple accounts, right? So you can have some banks call it a holiday savings account. So they'll let you open that. You can physically do it yourself on your computer. And I would put this amount of money separately. I wouldn't put it in with the regular pot of money that you would spend, because it's going to disappear like that.
So you're saying like the money that you would spend, like I'm on the day-to-day, like I am eating food, or like I'm buying groceries, I don't know, like getting something from a corner store, I'm like that account where you withdraw from, separate from like this holiday savings account.
Yeah, I would put that separate. Now, because if you have $0 in your checking, right, and now there's an emergency, you're not getting paid because you're in one of those fields that that service industry that has been affected so greatly by this COVID-19. Maybe your hours were reduced or whatever, and you don't have any money in your checking. Then this is your emergency amount. Money is going to be the one that you're going to use right now, right? But if you have some money in your checking right now, I would put the 1,200 separately, or I would at least put away half, right? So that you're going to always have a little bit of a cushion in your emergency savings, and then you use what you need to use now. I mean, obviously, you have to be you have to have a certain quality of life as well, right? And if let's say you're good with money right now for like rent or food, but you make just enough to sort of survive, and you're kind of living paycheck to paycheck, and you have some debt that you've incurred. You haven't really been able to send any additional money to your credit card companies. You're just paying the minimum amounts that are required monthly. This is another opportunity for you to consider paying off a credit card, or sending an additional amount to the highest interest credit card that you might have right now. Because if you get rid of that, that's money that now you're releasing that money that's going to go into your regular cash flow now, right? So I would recommend you consider looking at what credit card debt you might have, with the highest interest stuff. Or if you have let's say you have 5 credit cards and they're all relatively small, right. So maybe you just start paying, you pick the highest interest, pay that off. Or if that's the highest amount, then maybe start with the smallest amount that you owe on a credit card, pay that off, and just look at your financial situation, your financial picture right now, and see where you can make a dent in your debt, right? Obviously, if you have a car loan or a mortgage, the $1,200 is not going to make much of a dent there, but you can make a dent in a credit card or two, right?
Let me ask you this: if I could see some people like the money's going to come in, and maybe you are kind of running things off of like, I'm waiting until my next paycheck comes in to be able to do the next thing I can do. And that $1,200 maybe is like a pretty big chunk for you. Like I could see some people wrestling with, like, maybe you're watching this video and you're like, okay, I don't want to just blow it all. I want to do things like what you're saying, set up some put things into different categories for savings, like paying the next thing for rent, paying a car payment, paying my phone bill, whatever is next. But I can't tell based on the numbers. I think some people are better with numbers than others. I can't tell if it's feasible. Like how would I get help to look through the numbers and say like, all right, does this make sense? Like, based on what you have to pay next, like this is a good plan that you have in place for when that check comes, that you're not going to be worried that you're going to know it or that it's,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, that's a great point. And here this is where I would recommend, you have a couple of options. You can certainly reach out to me or Brian Keel at Everence or Kevin Gill at Everence. We will be glad to do virtual, one-on-ones with people during this time to help you kind of look at your budget and create a budget if you don't have one, or kind of just prioritize the things that you need to prioritize. And if that doesn't sound appealing, because, talking about finances it's pretty intimidating. And also there's a certain sense of embarrassment if you think your finances is not in a good place, and you don't want those that to know what your financial picture really looks like. We get that completely. We have this resource as a free resource for people who call this number. Essentially, this is a partnership that Everence has with Lutheran Social Services, LSS, that we refer people to all the time. We work with pastors, churches, individuals, and just by calling this number, this is a designated line for us. This 877 number. Do you see this?
yeah,
Okay.
878090039, right?
Yep. Yes. So this is the number that's designated for anyone who calls. Will be speaking with someone, and they know that somehow you heard about this resource through Everence. They assume a relationship. They're not going to ask for member IDs or anything like that. It's 100% confidential. They're not going to report back to me, for example, that they spoke to so-and-so and they talked about XYZ. They're not going to do it. It's 100% confidential. It's private.
Yes.
You call this number and they'll help you with budgeting, with whether your issues are around student loans or buying a mortgage, buying a house, first-time home buyers, or a balloon mortgage, or trying to, whatever your financial questions are.
Yeah.
Going to then you'll schedule a call with a counselor, English or Spanish. They do also provide assistance in Hmong because they're actually based out of Minnesota, and there's a large Hmong population there, so they have that language as well. But here, I anticipate that English and Spanish are probably the most
judgment-free zone, right?
Huh?
A judgment-free zone, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and also they're an hour behind us, so it works for us, because if you get off of work at 5, right, or you get home at 6 or 7, they're still working. So it actually works really well for people who have to meet a little later.
Gotcha.
They will schedule a time that's convenient for you, and it is a powerful resource. They're going to explain to you what your options are. They will, with your permission, of course, pull a detailed credit report that, when I actually use them myself, and I had never seen that version of the credit report that they have. So detailed. There were things on there that I never even saw in the ones that you can get for free. So they will guide you step by step. If you've never done a budget and you're nervous about that, they will guide you through it and figuring out how much you should be saving. If you're in a place where you're trying to pay off, like I said, student loans, or you're trying to buy a car, you're trying to figure out whether you should refinance your home, like they will literally walk through all that with you. So you can call us. I know Kevin Gill at our office. He's our financial wellness manager for our location at Kensington and Allegheny. He's a certified financial counselor now too. So he can do what LSS does over the phone, he can do in person.
Right.
The only thing is right now, because of the coronavirus, we can't do anything in person yet, but so you could do it virtually like this. So it's totally up to you, but we're more than happy to help you in this area. Or if you want us to email you budgeting sheets, right? Maybe kind of where to get started. You just need some tools about like where to plug things in. We can send you some, information. So however involved you want us to be, we can determine that with you. So we're glad to help. And I really encourage this resource, not just for individuals, but pastors. If you're associated with a church, spread this resource far and wide in the church. Right now, everybody should be looking at their finances. Every single person in the congregation, every person in your family, right? So share this with far and wide. That's what I would say. And then, so when I just kind of going back to the debt piece, if you are in a place where you can kind of use this money for that, this is what, I would recommend: focus on high interest debt first, and then focus on smallest debt first. And then here's another way, for you to establish good money habits: use cash, right? Not credit for purchases. Set up automatic bill pays to avoid late payment charges. And here, using extra cash like bonuses or pay raises to reduce the principal on loans. So in this case, this $1,200 is extra money you weren't expecting. If you're in a place where you can send an extra principal amount to your mortgage, then do that. That's an additional amount so that's less interest in the long term that you'll pay.
Right.
And then figure out how to lower the interest rates on your credit cards and loans, like we talked about a little bit earlier.
When it comes to the auto bill pay, I've actually used that feature.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely recommend that too, but I could see some people like just the fact that it happens behind the scenes where you're not actually handing the money over or online making the clicking to send the money be a little bit, I could see people being scared of that.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
you have to be very careful with this one, right? Because you want to make sure that there's enough money in there. That's why it's so important to know what are your bills, right? Sitting down to write them all out and the dates that they're due, right? Once you understand that, you're going to know how much money is necessary in your account monthly, so that whatever point the mortgage or the rent comes out, or the, your X number of credit cards, or your PICO or PGW bill, whatever, it's super important to sit down and write down all of your expenses when they're due, right? And then you can feel more safe about using this automatic bill pay. If you have no idea when they come out, then I would recommend you don't do that yet, because then you may forget, or you don't know when it comes out. So then what if you went to the supermarket, you spent $100 there, and on the same day that this automatic bill came out, now you're going to be hit with a late fee anyway, right? So before you do that, you have to know how much money needs to be in your account for the month, right? In order for it to work. So, but
I had one last thought. I know you got to get running, Natalie, but I wanted one last thought. I know that this time is a lot of people are talking about mental health, that it's that they're constantly, it's anxious and they're lonely, they're home alone, maybe you're still working from home, maybe your boss is giving you more work than usual because, you're home.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we wanted to do this is to make finances take off some of the anxiety, right? But I see it so often when you think, when the moment you think about money, you get into an anxious state.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was thinking about as you said that is, like, it seems like there's part of it, an unavoidable part of it is you kind of have to face your demons a little bit. You have to have the courage to face some of the practical skills of, like, being organized enough to, like, know when bills come out.
Yeah.
Or, like, if you're embarrassed about money stuff, like, make the call to the person that will help advise you. You have to sort of, in order to make your mental health when it comes around surrounding financial stuff, you actually have to face it first before you can get to a place of financial wellness and peace, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of the stance that Everence takes, is that that's why we call it financial wellness as opposed to, like, financial literacy, because it is a holistic approach. It has everything to do with your mind, body, soul, and spirit, right? If you are not financially well, you are not well in general. Physically, there's lots of anxiety and, et cetera. There's lots of things that come along with not being financially well. And so we want you but it starts with that. You have to look at your financial picture.
Yeah.
Avoiding it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't beat yourself up about it. So what? You didn't know what you know now, last year, 10 years ago. that's all gone, right? So what can start today, right? With
The
the
God of second chances, right?
right, give yourself your own blank slate, right? And
Yeah.
start addressing it. Learn from now on. My challenge to people, especially young people, is to learn everything you can about how money works. Now, I'm not saying make all the money you can, right? Obviously, we do want to make good money decisions and try to find a good paying job. But your life will change when you understand how money works,
Hmm.
especially for brown and black, folk who perhaps don't have others in their family who have been teaching them what to do with money, the things that you can do with money, which is, spend, save, share, and invest, right? No one ever sat down with me to tell me about those four things. And you're learning about it now. It's okay. Learn everything you can about how money works. There's so many free resources. Don't go spending all this money to learn about money. That's one of the traps, right? So but definitely sit down and address it. So that's why I would say, if you've never done this before, call LSS or call us. Let's take the first steps together. If you've never seen your credit report, I would say begin there. If you want to do that first before you call anybody, go on to annualcreditreport.com and you can get a free copy of your credit report, or download the app Credit Karma so that you can get your credit report there. Now, you can't get all three on Credit Karma, but you can on annualcreditreport.com so that you can see what is even on your credit report. There might be things on there that aren't yours, that somebody may have stolen your identity. You won't know until you rip that Band-Aid off, okay? And see where you stand. Then you can make small changes and take small steps to improve it, all right? So this is a couple more tips. During this time, it's probably been good for us in the sense that you're not outside as much or going to the mall as much or down, whatever the local businesses are, et cetera, spending extra money on things, right? So right now is a time where we're actually reflecting on, like, you know what, I can do without XYZ, right? So whether it's, buying pizza every week or eating out every day, those things have probably changed dramatically. So you're going to see that you've been forced to make some changes that are actually going to help your finances. So look at those things. What are you living without right now because of COVID that you're like, oh, that you're okay with? Like, it's okay not ordering out or using Uber Eats or DoorDash as much. Those things are super expensive. Literally, almost sometimes when I look, my son has done it. He's paid like $20 to get Chick-fil-A delivered to the house. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm teaching him the importance of, like, that's a stupid decision, right? And anyway, so all those things right now, I think there's going to be a lot of blessings in disguise as a result of this quarantine. So
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
I wanted to share. I don't think we have enough time, but next time, maybe when we talk, we can talk about this. Maybe you're at a place where you have an emergency savings, you have, steady income, you are attacking your debt and all that, and you kind of want to know, what can you do to start investing? Maybe some of the basic things, right? Like, what does that look like? Because having your money in a regular savings account is not going to make you any money, all right? So you need to then understand a little bit of what investing for your age, what are your options, and maybe, because there's something amazing called compound interest. So if you can understand how that works, you can get it to work for you, right? It's the same concept of credit cards. Like, credit cards work because of compound interest, but but investing makes compound interest work for you. So we can certainly talk about that at another time.
Yeah, I'd love to make that happen. Actually, I think this is a really good, like, coming full circle, because I think I introduced this by talking about, like, moving from scarcity to abundance.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even that way of thinking of, like, moving from reacting to, we're going to get a check and making sure I don't blow it all, to actually, I can not only save money, but I can learn to invest and make my money work for me.
Mm-hmm.
to help me move, yeah, again, from scarcity to abundance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is great. I think that, I mean, it definitely exposes to me that we all, I mean, I really want to continue to learn more about money. I think we're all on a journey. None of us has arrived when it comes to understanding our relationship with money. But you know, I'm thankful that you guys are in the community. You're here. Is there a way that, like, the easiest way, if someone is like, I like what Natalie's saying, I would love to get in touch with you, or is there an easy way to get in contact? Or
Yes, absolutely. So you can, I want to show you our email. Well, my email is natalie.martinez@everence.com, but I'm just going to pull it up. I'm going to put up the site on our website. So you can just kind of click on this link.
And as you're doing that, if I could just make a little pitch, just from knowing Natalie myself, I would say, you know, you mentioned that there's the people that you can call, and I'll put the link up for no judgment, kind of counseling around money, but
go ahead.
Counselor, but just kind of like being your friend or talking to you about money decisions. I can vouch for the fact that you wouldn't be someone who would judge. You know, the whole idea of I've been there, I know, you know, and so I definitely would encourage people to connect with you if you're thinking about it, and maybe a little embarrassed or a little concerned. So
I won't tell Jeremy that you sent me.
Yeah, you don't even have to.
Me.
Exactly.
Right? Absolutely confidential. So yeah, so here's our team in Philly. Here's our fearless leader, Letter Dow. This is my information, my phone number. You can text me at that number or call me. And my email is, oh, never mind. It sends you to a contact form, so you can email me directly from there, but it's natalie.martinez@everence.com. This is Brian Keel. So if you're interested, our community development officer, if you're interested in finding out about small business loans, personal loans, church loans, mortgages, etc., Brian is your man. He is our banker. And Kevin, that I mentioned, is our financial wellness manager. You'll probably see his face the most at Kensington and Allegheny. Here's everybody's phone numbers. And then Randy is he's another stewardship consultant like I am, but he's out of our Souderton office. And if you wanted to speak to anybody about development when it comes to your nonprofit, and some investment stuff as well, Randy is your guy. So I can connect you to any of these guys depending on what your needs are. So
yeah, and I'll just make a little pitch. Actually, I don't know if you knew this, Natalie, but Leonard is actually planning on coming to share to our Monday night group Zoom on this coming Monday. So
this coming Monday, okay. Well,
Monday.
Can you invite me?
Yeah, I'll invite you as well. And you know, most of you guys, most that receive this will probably know Brian as well, and as well. So yeah, this has been great.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, we'll definitely try to keep these things going. I'm definitely excited about what Everence is trying to do in the community. So yeah, we just you guys are a great resource, and I think that more than ever we're just becoming aware, especially during these COVID-19 times, that financial wellness is you can't really separate our overall well-being from our financial well-being. So yeah, we'll definitely be continue to support you guys and be encouraged that we're thankful for your presence in the community. So anyways, thanks, Natalie.
All right, guys.
We'll have more conversations soon.
All right, take care.
Thanks.